What if you could walk into a pharmacy and get meds that could actually treat COVID-19, not just the symptoms? That's not an option right now, but we're one step closer. A pharmaceutical company called Merck has been developing a pill that people who have COVID-19 could take at home without having to go to the hospital. Merck is applying for FDA authorization, which could come by the end of the year. If it gets authorized by the US Food and Drug Administration, it could be a game changer. So what is this new pill, and why might it be a turning point in the fight against COVID? I'm in the office doing some digging on the topic. Up until now, the main therapies for COVID-19, like monoclonal antibodies, have all required an IV. But this new medication doesn't. Patients could get a prescription from the doctor and get that filled at their local drugstore, the same way we do for flu or other diseases. It's called Molnupiravir.
When someone is diagnosed with COVID or when they have, clear symptoms of COVID, there aren't a lot of options for them. Doctors would have something to give patients right away to prescribe to them.
That's my coworker and fellow Amherst College alum, Betsy McKay. She's been covering Molnupiravir for more than a year, including when promising preliminary results were first reported in the spring. And she says this pill is a huge deal. That's because now, for the first time ever, you can potentially treat COVID-19 orally, similar to how you take ibuprofen. But instead of taking it just once to fend off body aches, you take 4 pills twice a day for 5 days. Here's how it works. The goal is to stop the coronavirus from multiplying inside your cells. Molnupiravir does that by messing up the virus's ability to make copies of itself, which prevents you from getting sick enough that you might need to go to the hospital. It does that by basically acting as a wrench in the virus's replication assembly line. Once the virus infects a cell, it uses the cell's machinery to copy its genetic information over and over again. That RNA contains the instructions for building viruses that can infect and spread. As the virus copies itself, Molnupiravir inserts itself into these instructions. If the language isn't quite right, the message gets lost in translation. New virus particles don't form correctly, and they can't continue spreading and infecting. Good for you, bad for the virus. That's why it's called an antiviral. It's similar to other antivirals, including remdesivir, which is given to COVID patients through an infusion, and Tamiflu, which you can get through a prescription to treat the flu. In a clinical trial, the pill treatment cut the risk of hospitalization or death by about half when people with mild to moderate COVID took it within 5 days of showing symptoms, and no one died. Antivirals work best when given early. That was the problem with other COVID treatments that required an IV. By the time patients got them, they were already in the hospital. Molnupiravir worked so well that Merck stopped enrolling new patients in the study after discussions with the FDA. To get ready to distribute it quickly,
Merck has been manufacturing courses of treatment, pills already, and has said it will have 10 million ready by the end of the year. So by the end of the year, hopefully, people could start getting this drug.
Betsy called it a Tamiflu for COVID. It would help prevent you from getting really sick.
It's also important in that it will help reduce the amount of virus that is spreading in the community, right? If people are treated right away, once they're infected, cuts the amount of virus in their body and they stop spreading it. It will be a really, really important tool to have.
For now, the drug has only been tested in unvaccinated patients who are high risk for COVID complications. But Betsy said the hope is that it works on everyone, including people who are vaccinated. Because Molnupiravir disrupts a process that's common to other RNA viruses like influenza, MERS, and SARS, in theory, it could be useful to treat those too. I asked Betsy if there were any concerns. She said one concern was that the side effects of the pill are unclear. Merck has released limited information about side effects, but said the drug was safe. Some doctors have also expressed concern that the way it works could also disrupt the way our own cells work. That's because RNA is important in human cells too.
You have to be sure that it's messing with the virus, but not the human cell. Merck said it has tested it extensively and hasn't found that problem with this drug. The other thing to remember is that people would take it for 5 days, not an extended period. But that is one reason that doctors have questions about it and want to see more data.
Another concern, Doctors are worried that having Molnupiravir available could discourage people from getting vaccinated.
They're worried that people will think of this as a replacement for vaccination.
But public health experts say it's not, and neither are other similar COVID drugs that are in the pipeline. An easy-to-take treatment like Molnupiravir makes the disease more manageable, but
it has to be said that there are people who took this drug in the clinical trial and still ended up in the hospital. So, it's not a cure-all for everybody.
Public health experts say that it's better to prevent COVID than treat it. That's why getting vaccinated is still the best way to put the pandemic behind us. If you have any questions about COVID, please leave them in the comments. And if you're interested in infectious disease or public health, I've left some links to Betsy's work down below. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you get your dose of science and health updates. Hasta luego, nos vemos pronto. Gracias.